everyone, Scott Hansen here from NFL Red Zone. I hope you're checking out 1 hour of 5-Yard Rush, one of the best podcasts on NFL football in the UK.
What is happening, Rush Nation? We are back. We are back for part 2 of the matchup show, your Bible to get you through the week. Full disclosure, this is being recorded about an hour before Thursday Night Football, so I'm not going to talk about the game or the results. And therefore, the information here is as of an hour before Thursday Night Football. Latest news is Amari Cooper is retired. Looks like Christian Kirk might not go. I'm going to hold my ranking on that one, but obviously Cooper is out of my ranks going forward. He's retired from the NFL. So just make that really clear in terms of the timescape of the information we've got. We've got 6 games to review, the late slate, the 9:05, 9:25, or 4:05, 4:25, Sunday Night Football, and then Monday Night Football. So a bit shorter than the first episode. Also, please hit the comments. Let me know what you think of this format. This is always sort of the hardest shows of the week for me to do, because I don't know sort of how much to show, how much to go into. Is it too long? Is it too short? That's why I kind of break them up as well, because it's a lot of information. Write in the comments below what you think. That'll be really helpful in terms of helping me shape this going forward. But we're here to go through the last 6 games of the week. So let's pull that up. Let's get into it. As per episode or part 1, I'll just have my rankings up. I'll show through them, and we'll get straight into it. We're going to talk Titans versus Broncos. That's the first game of the late slate. And it's going to be an interesting game for sure. Broncos are favored by 7.5 points, which is quite significant, really, in terms of, I know that the Titans were the 1 overall pick, but I think they did a good job in trying to build up hope for the future. Over under 43.5. It's interesting. They don't think that the Titans are going to be very competitive out of the gate to the folks in Vegas. So I don't know if I necessarily share the same view, but I am probably as conservative as them. Maybe not quite, but close in terms of the nature of this. But yeah, I do think Denver will win the game. My rankings will kind of reflect that, but also I have some optimism for Tennessee this year. It wouldn't shock me if this game was a bit closer in terms of the line. Bo Nix, as a result, is my quarterback 9 of the week. Cam Wood is at 30. The Denver D is shaping up to be a good one this year. So one to definitely keep an eye on. As for the running backs here, Tony Pollard I have at 19, and I have a split backfield between RJ Harvey and J.K. Dobbins. I have them at 28 and 30 this week. I'm really not overly confident on which one's going to dominate, get touches. Is it a straight even backfield? We're going to need to see what happens in week 1. So, I am hedging my bets. And making it a bit conservative as a result. So I've got Tony Pollard as the lead back in this game for sure. Then moving on to the wide receivers in this one. And Courtland Sutton is my leading wide receiver in this game. He is at wide receiver 20 this week, followed by Calvin Ridley at 32. Then Marvin Mims at 50 this week. And they're the only receivers really I'm focused on for this one. Everyone else is outside of that. Although I would be keeping an eye on Eric Iomino. I think he's going to be a player who is going to have a significant future here in the NFL despite his draft stock. He is one I'd be keeping an eye on. I'm not interested in having Tyler Lockett at any stage, but I think it's too early to be starting Iomino at any point in the near future, but just keep an eye on him. One to grab off benches and waiver wires for sure. Just stash and see what happens. Eric Ingram is my tight end 7 this week. Chigo Konkru is tight end 21 this week. I do have some hope for him this season, but think it will take a little time to get going. The Broncos are my DST 8 this week. That's going to shock a few people. A lot of them have them higher. I do think the Tennessee can maybe have a few blows here. But I also just think there's better opportunities and better matchups across the board with the Steelers, the Cardinals, the Vikings, who I have a bit higher as well, and the Commanders. Titans, I haven't lost. I just don't have a lot of faith or confidence in this defense in terms of generating turnover-worthy plays. In terms of the kickers, Will Lutz is at 5 this week. Joey Sly is at 31 for the week. Next matchup here is the 49ers versus the Seahawks. Really close game, favored in the way of the 49ers by 1.5. It is going to be really, really close. It's a really, really close matchup. Over under set 45.5, that consistent line of the week. That's what I call the Vegas cop-out line. They're really not sure what to do. So they stick a lot of games at 45.5 because they don't know if these teams are good or not for this part of the season. I'm just going to change this rankings page over so you can catch this. Brock Purdy, my quarterback, 11 on the week. Sam Darnold is at 28. Think it's going to take a little while to get him going with this offense. As for the running backs, I have Christian McCaffrey at 1 this week. This is a good matchup for him. Kenneth Walker is at 15. Zach Charbonnet is at 39. I'm not starting him, but I can totally understand people who would want to start him as a flex play, but think there's better options this week. But in a deep league, you can definitely start him, but I don't think it's going to yield a great return. Jackson Smith and Jigba is my wide receiver 16. Ricky Pearsall is at 34, and Cooper Kupp is at 44. Juwan Jennings is at 45. Torrey Holton is all the way down in the 90s. Not a player is on my radar at this point or at any point this season, barring injuries. George Kittle is my tight end 2 this week. Eric Iorio is at 32. Again, another player I've kind of got stashed away in a few places. Think that situation can change, but I don't think you're going to see it in week 1. So Francisco 49ers D is at 5. The Seattle Seahawks D is at 16. But I just think with the lack of options that the 49ers are going to have, I do think that there's opportunities to read, because really the only healthy players they've got on that team are they just escaped me, Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle. So you have got a pathway to just really shutting down the passing game and condensing your losses there. So it will be interesting to see. Jake Moody's at 20. Jason Myers is at 21. That's the state of the kickers this week in this one. Then moving on to just change the screen. 9:25 games. Lions, Packers, over under 47.5. I will say that the odds have moved in this game and made the Packers favorites with the trade for Micah Parsons. Beforehand, the Lions were favored in that one. I think this will be a really good game. I think this is definitely the game on the late slate that will catch my attention the most. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how it plays out. I think a lot of teams are sleeping on the Lions this season, and I think that there will be an opportunity for them to post some wins, and I still think they're one of the better teams in the NFC. So I'm not necessarily going to be giving the flowers to Green Bay in this one just yet. Jordan Love, he is at QB 14 for me this week. Jared Goff is at 16. That D with Micah Parsons has got better. It will be interesting to see how they come through this one. As for the running backs here, Jahmyr Gibbs is at 4. Josh Jacobs is at 8. And David Montgomery at 26. So 3 starting worthy running backs available in this game. Followed by the wide receivers, Amon-Ra St. Brown is at 8. Jameson Williams is at 27. Matthew Golden is at 39. Jaden Reed, who has a questionable tag at the time of recording, is at 51. Romeo Doubs might be one of interest. If Jaden Reed doesn't go, he's at 61. If not, I'd probably be staying away from Jaden Reed and everyone else and just maybe seeing what happens with Golden moving forward. Sam Laporta is my tight end 4 this week. Tucker Kraft, my tight end 10. As for the defenses here, I have them quite lowly ranked. Detroit at 17, Green Bay at 18. Shouldn't be defenses that you would be typically starting this week. There are better options out there on the waiver wire this week. Jake Bates, my kicker, at 9 this week. Brandon McManus is my kicker at 19 this week. So not one I'd be starting McManus in if you drafted him, hoping he would be your guy. Last game of the late slate is the Texans versus the Rams. Rams favored by 3.5 despite the injury concerns of Matthew Stafford. The over-under is set at 47.5. This game should be really straightforward if Stafford is healthy. But again, I do think people are sleeping on the Texans. There's a lot of ability there. And I do think this is a bounce-back year for CJ Stroud. Despite that, I do have him at 17 this week. I think the Rams D can get to him. That offensive line for Stroud is a concern. It'll be interesting to see how they're going to address the elephant in the room, which is that offensive line. Trading away and getting rid of most of the offensive line is never a good recipe for success. I have some concerns. Matthew Stafford at 25 does look like he will play, but how healthy is he with that back, which we know he has suffered from for the last few years? Kyron Williams is my running back 11 on the week. Nick Chubb is at 35, stepping in for Joe Mixon. Woody Marks is at 48. I do think there'll be some room for him in this one to keep an eye out and go for sure in this one. But as the season goes on. But I do think Woody Marks will get more carries. I think he might grow into this role. And if Mixon doesn't come back, they're going to need to utilize him more. So one to keep an eye on Woody Marks. Another one I'd be picking up off the waiver wire and keeping an eye on. Nico Collins, he is the wide receiver 4 this week. Puka Nacua is the wide receiver 7. Devontae Adams, wide receiver 15. These three all must starts this week. And Christian Kirk is looking more and more unlikely to play. He's at 46 right now. I'm not going to adjust my ranks until I get a little bit more information. But Adam Schefter did say he is a concern to play this week. So we'll be keeping an eye on that one over the weekend. Dalton Schultz, he's at 22 this week. And Tyler Higbee at 34. Not starting the tight ends this week. Not a matchup really to be focusing on those. I do have the Rams at 6 and the Texans at 9. I do think the defenses could really steal this one, which is strange for the line that being given where it is. But I do think there'll be opportunities for both teams to snag DST-worthy points, especially the Rams with that weakness to the offensive line of the Houston Texans. Kieran Fairbairn is going to be my kicker 8 this week. Josh McCarthy is at 17. I think, again, he'll have better weeks, but this one I'm probably staying away from for him there. I'm going to move this to DSTs. Look at who we're monitoring on the DST track. Sunday Night Football is the barn burner. It is the game of the week. Absolutely. Ravens and Bills. Going to be an extraordinary matchup. Over under highest of the week, 51.5. And no surprises there. They do have the Bills as the favorites. I think this is a tough one to call. I don't know which way I would necessarily go on this one. Will be interesting to see. However, we will go into this a little bit more. These quarterbacks are the 1 and 2 on the week. They'll be the 2 that will stand out most of the season. And as a result, they are 1 and 2 in my ranks this week. Derrick Henry is at 5. James Cook is at 17. Ray Davis is down at 51. In terms of running back rankings, not players I would be starting this week. Looking at the wide receivers, Zay Flowers is at 26. He's my highest ranked wide receiver in this game. Despite the points, I just think the points are going to get spread around with the wide receivers. Maybe Zay Flowers is the only one who's going to really capitalize. The rest are all flex plays, and I guess you've got to kind of pick your poison here. Khalil Shakir is at 41. Keon Coleman is at 47. Rashad Bateman is at 52. All of these kind of in the flex to outside of flex range. DeAndre Hopkins, for reference, is at 66. I wouldn't be starting him in any leagues this week. Too rich for my blood, unless it's a really super deep league. Ark Andrews is my tight end 9 this week. Dalton Kincaid, tight end 16. Again, be interesting to see which Dalton Kincaid we get. And will they utilize him more? So it will be interesting to see how they do that. But both these defenses, because it's a high scoring game, are not startable. The Ravens at 24. The Bills are at 25 this week. And in terms of the kickers, no Justin Tucker, don't forget. So it is Tyler Loop. He is my favorite kicker in this matchup. He is at 12. Tyler Bass, who does have a questionable tag, very rare for a kicker to have a tag, is at 15. But I would expect him to go this week. And speaking of kickers, I'm going to move this across and show the kickers as we get into our final game of the week. Vikings and Bears. Bears are favored by 1.5, which it shows you about the movement in the offseason and the banking of the coaches over under at that very famous 45.59 of we don't know what we're doing here in Vegas. I just don't know if I back the Bears in week one. Wouldn't shock me if they won, sure, but I do think it's going to be interesting. And I think, again, a lot of people writing out the Vikings, JJ McCarthy's first game, but I do think that the Vikings have the better talent. I think they've got the more established roster. I always think when there's a lot of flux, a lot of change, I do think it's going to take time for Caleb Williams and everyone here to really get up to speed. And they don't have that kind of time. So I will favor the Vikings in this one. I think they're at good odds to cause the win here, and surprised they are underdogs. As for the quarterbacks this week, not starting any of them in one QB. A lot of excitement around JJ McCarthy. A lot of people will want to start him, but he is my quarterback 21 this week. Caleb Williams is at 19. Moving on to the running backs, and I have here Aaron Jones at 24, DeAndre Swift at 25, Jordan Mason at 34, Rashad Johnson has a questionable tag. He is at 58. Kyle Monange is at 63. He also has a questionable tag. So it's all wheels up Swift this week. He should get a lot of workload, if not the majority of it this week. Let's see what he can do with it with this new coaching offense that he has. Justin Jefferson is my wide receiver 2 this week. DJ Moore is down at 22. Roman Dunze at 37. Adam Thielen at 57. Luther Burden is at 65. Jalen Naylor's down at 87. He might get a move up now. I know he's healthy, but we will keep an eye on that. Again, if I'm thinking about like outside prop bets, Jalen Naylor is a good one. He stepped into this role last season. He did score a touchdown on opening weekend, and I think he could do the same again this week as well. As for the tight ends, TJ Hawkinson is at 8. Of course, the Loveland is at 20. Need to kind of see it first. In a few weeks' time, I think he will become a fantasy relevant tight end, but I won't think of it week one. The Vikings are my DST3. Again, that goes with my analysis. I just think they will create turnovers and they will win this game. The Bears are all the way down at 15. And then I go to the kickers this week for Monday Night Football, and I have Will Reichard at 18, and Cairo Santos is at 24. That is going to do it for the matchup show for this week. That's going to do it for part 2. I hope you have found this incredibly useful. I hope you've enjoyed the analysis. Again, please leave comments, like, subscribe, join the Discord. That's where you're going to find all the rankings I've talked about, at least as they're posted for the week. If you want up-to-date rankings, ask me questions, join our Patreon. Link is in there. Just a couple of dollars a month, a couple of pounds a month. We'll get you access to our WhatsApp chat. It will get you access to me. I'll help you try and win some ships this year. It does return really good value for money. So you'll get access to that. Our Patreon cast, a lot more strategy talk and more in there. But all that's left to say from me is good luck for week 1. It should be a barn burner. We are so glad the NFL is back. I know people are worried about Red Zone and the adverts. At the end of the day, they're still going to run all the games. It's still going to be there. Sky has more games than ever. The NFL is on Channel 5 with games. We have a game show. The life and love of the NFL is growing here in the UK. It's going to be bigger. It's going to be better. It's going to be louder than ever. Let's all embrace this. Let's all enjoy it. We have 18 weeks, 17 of which are filled with fantasy, and 18 is just to sign off. So let's make the most of it. Let's enjoy it. And let's just go and win some ships. It is a good time of year. Everything is back to normal. Order has been resumed. Best of luck in week 1. I look forward to seeing those success stories, celebrating with you on Victory Monday. But until then, Rush Nation, don't forget, as always, keep rushing.